Welcome, Divine Masculine. This is a timeless collective reading of yours. Bear in mind a few little details while we get ready for the reading. You have checked in to a collective reading held by me, Seventh. Bear in mind that whatever brings you here, there may be something within this reading for you. Please utilize your discernment to take all of the bits and pieces that resonate with you, and as you leave the reading behind, may anything remain behind along with it that doesn't apply to you. Bear in mind that this is a non-gender specific reading, so femininity encapsulates masculine and femininity, as well as masculinity encapsulating femininity and masculinity, which all can make up divine masculine. Okay, so utilize all that information again to your credit as far as utilizing your discernment. Okay, again, I am Seventh, aka Master Seventh. that reads these energies for you. Should you want to know who she is, what she's all about, and what I have to offer, there is a description box below that can offer you a little bit of clarity. For a bit more insight, I am a master healer that provides remote wellness and tarot intuitive insights such as this. There may be other information within the description box that might be of interest to you in regards to other forms of content that I have available and where they are featured. All right, Divine Masculine, let's see what's going on. You're not seeing, okay? I said, let's see what's going on, and the Two of Swords comes up, okay? You're not seeing anything. And it's not saying that you're not seeing anything, because the card that came after, I'll go over that in a second. Card after that, you have the Knight of Pentacles and the Four of Wands. Pardon me as I sneeze. It's a mixture of energy and a mixture of dust. May not have to sneeze. Look into the light. All right, anyway, so I mean, to be honest, I feel like it's more of the divine feminine energy of the connection, or would be future past present energy that is sitting down and taking in more so the energies of divine masculine. And again, that's non-gender specific, so this is even if you are a specific type of gender, and you, point is, you're here for a reason. Yet what you're not, I think, aware of is what I disclosed on beginning of the reading, that femininity has masculine and feminine energy, and masculinity has feminine and masculine energy. All right, there's two and two for two separate individuals to feel wholesome. They are their own identity. They have two halves of themselves, and I'm explaining that the halves of each is one of the left hemisphere of the brain and the other the right hemisphere of the brain. And more or less one side is masculine, which is feminine and masculine, and then one side is feminine, which is feminine masculine. So all that is just dancing with one variable of one individual. Okay, and this is how one, and I'm not going to go into that in this reading. I'm not, because it's about counting, and counting is different. What I will say is, instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, it's 0, 1, 1. And what I will disclose in that is that's the missing equation. Okay? Once it's irrelevant, but once something of you and it click, that's when something will make sense. I'm not giving credit to you needing to agree with me with 0, 1, 2, 3 and 0, 1, 1. Don't care about that. Ether will decide on its own what is what and what Yeah, what is what, and you don't know what is what. Okay, anyway, this is, this is gonna be like a little bit of like a push and pull here. You know, it's like, it speaks a lot to the relation of yourself, then the reflection of how that is with another, whether you're in a relationship or not with someone, whether it's a situationship or not, whether it's a companionship or not, whether it's a friendship or not, whether it's a likability, whether it's a lovability. Like, there is familiar, family, all right? Whatever it is, there's a push and pull, which of course is natural. But then there's one that is constant, which you don't understand why it irritates so much. Okay, it irritates so much. And the way that it irritates is like almost gaslighting. It's like you can bring a lot to the table, and you do bring a lot to the table. And everyone has a feast, and they're saying, it's delicious, but never giving you, the cook, any credit for that. And that's where I think something within you is being like, trigger alert, triggers. Like, I need a little bit of give and take for it to be equal. I need to be able to give and receive in that same giving to have function and formality with the rest of the shit I'm being asked to provide. There has to be an acknowledgement, and there hasn't been much of an acknowledgement. I'm not saying no acknowledgement. Some of y'all have some sort of a connection to divine feminine who is completely in his or her own like brujeria, enchanting, calling, beckoning, you know, come to me, my love kind of energy. And at the same time, there's parts of you, divine masculine, that's like, nah, I don't want that. That's like, it's a bit too much. It's a bit, let's call it out for what it is, manipulative, right? And I don't know if I agree with all the aspects. Now, mind you, some of this shit might be hitting your ego and the revealing as I'm saying it to you, and it may or may not be a truth. How would you know, right? Unless the divine feminine literally tells you, or you're like, you catch me if you can kind of shit. Use attitude about it. But within the context of how everything is connected, like mycelium, and you can like communicate across the land and give nutrients, we can do that with each other, and you can do that with the connection that's of the highest vibration of that which you desire to share. So to understand that a bit more is to understand that the subconscious is trying to weasel out what the consciousness is ready to explore for itself. And if that's at odds, you're going to be at odds. If it's at evens, then things are even Stevens, you know? If it's a mixture of needed odds and ends, then you're going to participate in the odds and ends. Yeah, everything has to return to you as much as it is begotten from you, okay? And a lot of this has to stem from trauma that you may not want to discuss. It is legitimate that it might be trauma, as much as may be legitimate that you may not want to talk about it, as much as you not wanting to talk about it legitimizes the fact that there might be trauma. Divine masculine. You deserve praise, okay? You deserve acknowledgement. You are in the right to desire, right? Let's be honest. When was the last time you were gotten a bouquet of flowers? Start a new trend for y'all. Said, oh, that's femme. Goodbye. Ooh, excuse me. Lord. No manners. Can't control those bubbles. Alright. There's so many things you want to do hands-on that I don't think you have the energy to also do, and maybe there's some of you who are just very tired for how hands-on you have been. You know, obviously it's going to teeter in the way of how involved how involved it is for you. But there is either too much of a lacking of something or too much involvement of something, and trying to make sense of that is what's kind of overwhelming, and it's causing like pain in the mental, headaches. Okay, it could be also heightened anxiety the most, trouble falling asleep. Okay, trouble staying asleep, and slowly kind of realizing that you're less in nature. You know, you might. Yeah, some of y'all need to get your asses out back in nature. Toes in the grass, toes in the sand, toes on some rocks. Okay, feel the nitty grittiness of earth vibrations. What's going on here? There's a want for vacationing, time off, time away to rekindle, recalibrate, maybe even respark, reignite a connection of some kind, whether yourself or with someone immediately. Make sure that you understand what consenting energies and what that means for loyalty and devotion, because some of y'all are engaging in activities that don't have necessarily congruency of labels on them. And not that you necessarily need labels. Shit in ether is labelless anyway. But I would say when it comes to the integrity and how your decisions affect other people should be utilized with wisdom and accountability and making discernment. Even if it includes making discernment and decisions for self. So here this paper thin walls, gross. Hopefully y'all didn't hear that, but you probably did. All right, so like I said, there's drama. There's drama in the forefront of, you know, maybe too many concerns and not enough money to address all those concerns. I will say it will take some time for that on a collective front. Wherever you are, there's going to be someone else that shares that struggle, and I would say to both of those or anyone connected to that things more or less will give you more of an answer, whether it's of positivity for yourself or not, by the reaching of the end of 2025 timelines. Some of you have an addiction problem that you refuse to kind of let go of. I say kind of because you say you want to get rid of it, but I think there's a part of you who's like, who am I kidding? And find out what it is, because whatever it is that you do decide will be a safe space, not saying then that the negative consequences of that adventure is the safe space, more on the contrary. You're safe in making any decision in life. However, there's responsibility that will always come into effect of making that decision. First with yourself. And utilizing a stream of transaction that feeds self with obsession and not understanding whether or not it's a need and a want is feeding yourself the toxicity of that obsession. You really want to emphasize that whatever decision you make is a safe space of a decision. So even if you think in your ego, oh, that means I can make the wrong decision and it is a safe space. Yeah, I'm claiming to that. But I'm also addressing the fact when you make that decision and it is a decision that is more or less the category of the negative of that choice, the positive of that choice is that you will reap the rewards of that negativity. Negative. And that aspect will obviously feed what it is that you want. And so that was a safe space for you to do that because you decided. So is that not a safe space? The moment you realize that the safe space shouldn't have or nor include negative aspects of leaving and coming into, you'll understand more so what it means to have an egotistical point of view with your inner self of alpha, beta, and omega, and make decisions that are still on the end of teaching you viable lessons. And those viable lessons more or less often comes with negative decisions, right? So that ironic twist of the mind that I just did in the heart emotions of any decision in a safe space is to give you the courage and credit that who and what you are is enough, and not just enough, but perfect in its own perfection and imperfections, to live unapologetically, to give breath to yourself unapologetically, to express that breath unapologetically. That's a safe space. And then there's the pros and cons, the push and pull, the left and right, the up and down to that cyclical cycle that has a narrative, whether you control it or not. You breathing a million times, or me the million times within telling you the story, is an autonomous thing that's happening, and I could bring myself into a moment of the same speed of a conscious breath, and maybe lack in that moment because I did that. Other senses are teetering, right? As I just like I lisped, right? Because I'm trying to gain control of something, and the certain speed of how and things happen, and the control of making sure I make sense and not losing my focus is a lot going on to figure out self and other. The most important lesson here is to know that you are a safe space. The moment you feel that there is not a safe space, it's safe enough to realize that the decisions on top of that non-safe space are at risk. You know, to be perfect is not a thing. To be imperfect is not a goal. But to say I am perfect, it's a perfection of its own that has its own blemishes. And that is what's really important to empower, and important for individuals of self and other around you to empower that about yourself too, and to power that within each other. Lord, oh Lord. Oh Lord. We're not taking all of these. Much needed rest is required. Maybe denied to you right now, like terrible schedules. And you're pushing through. Okay, you really are doing like an amazing job. feel like Divine Masculine doesn't talk enough, which is an irony, because I talked a lot here. I went like on a tangent more or less, and you're really good at just like taking in, and I think the energies polar opposite of you are asking you to speak up more. You don't have to speak up in saying things out loud, but speaking up more in the internal versions of who you and what it is that you are, being a bit more, you know, adventurous, a bit more spontaneous, a bit more humble, a bit more seeking for laughter, like not looking things with like a deer in a headlight approach and get lost in the sense of responsibilities and 2121, because there is a need to provide, but once it separates you and everything else that it is providing, that you're providing for, what's the point of it? What's the point of providing? You know, you can't be the only one being held accountable for not being present if another person isn't present in your life and in your concerns. Alright, we're gonna see what else. What else we have for Divine Masculine at this time? Definitely deserve praise, Divine Masculine. Look at that. Yep, Chiron. You definitely learn. You're definitely deserving praise here. You are just a dime in a dozen, and you're really mending. There's not much wanting to be said because we don't want to get in the way of that. We don't want to get in the way of that. We want to, do your thing, Divine Masculine. You have Venus energy, love. I love that for you. So much inevitable love vibration coming to you. And not in the color red, but in the color green. The way that it should be. Alright, and then we have the last quarter here, release. Alright, so absolutely beautiful awakening is happening for Divine Masculine. I'm totally here. I'm so fucking here for that shit. Yeah, totally here for it. If someone's telling you that like tattoos are like bad for the lymph nodes and all that, okay, yeah, so there's a lot of fucking shit. There's things that you can do, or the devil's work is tattoo, whatever shit that they have about tattoos. I mean, honestly, the amount of times I'm sick and tired of people taking religious symbolisms and put that somewhere, anoint their walls with it, the front door, the ground, either their body, their cars, and the contradictions that are said between those walls while that symbolism is hanging on the wall or on their door or on the ground or in their car is absolutely wild to me. And all the ways that I can sense them, that somebody can keep their fucking mouth shut, their opinions about what you do with your body. Okay? Like, they can all the way shut the all right. Well, yeah, things are unfolding. That's why it's very hard for you at this time, Divine Masculine. Things are absolutely unfolding. Okay, Remember this card here. This is going to be a very beautiful feeling for you. Let it tell its story. Let this symbolism tell its story. Okay, and the speed of what is revealing itself is unique. But let me tell you, it's at a speed perfect because it's much faster than the breath that you give yourself to. Imagine that. All right, with that being said, I'm wishing you a wonderful morning, noon, or night, wherever you are in the ether of this time and space, and may you keep flowing, growing, and glowing. Take care.